Hi, I'm Don from DonDronesOn, and welcome to my monthly report on my Starlink experience. 14 months and still loving it. Now, if you're waiting for your dish and living vicariously through YouTube channels like mine, well, I hope you receive yours soon, because you too will love it. Anyway, let's jump in. Frankly, there's not that much new to report this month, other than being amazed at all the recent launches. Over 200 new Starlink satellites have been launched into orbit since my last report in April. Now, these new satellites do take a few months to be jostled into position in the constellation, but as of May 21st, there were 1,837 systems fully in service, which is amazing. And this continued growth will help all of us in terms of coverage, shared bandwidth capacity, and hopefully even obstacle outages. Speaking of outages, let's dive right into my performance metrics. First up is dropout events per hour. I define a dropout as an outage over 11 seconds, enough to be noticeable on an MS Teams or Zoom call, but of course usually having no impact whatsoever on streaming services like YouTube or Netflix. In short, May was bad for these short dropouts, 3 times worse than April, 0.48 dropouts per hour, or roughly 1 every 2 hours. And I noticed it at work for sure. There were many meetings where I would miss a few seconds or so, and if I was the one talking, people would ask me to repeat because I had, just disappeared. A bit annoying, but certainly not a killer, even in important meetings. Life goes on. So what is going on? There are more satellites, in fact, twice as many as a year ago, so why am I getting so many dropouts? I'm going to have to suspect that the leaves are starting to pop out on the deciduous trees towards my west side, which is where most of my obstacles are, and I'm getting more blockages. And that only makes sense. That said, it's still 5 times better than my obstacle outages last May. The question is, will it get even worse in June? On a related note, remember last month I talked about the visibility display and remarked that areas that were shown in black in December, basically permanent blockages, were showing as obstacles, red areas, in April. So the system had sort of forgotten about these permanent blockages and was trying to acquire satellites, more or less in between the branches of the trees. Well, now in May, the system seems to have figured this out again. There is less red and more black. And yet I'm getting more obstacle-based dropouts. So who knows what's going on? It seems to me that really they should offer a masking option for advanced users. Sort of like what you get with motion detection systems like this one, where you can basically mark areas, perhaps at 2 levels of granularity, where you don't want Starlink to be trying to acquire satellites. That can't really be that hard to implement, and I'm sure I'm not the only one with trees and moving stuff that are difficult for automatic systems to deal with. Why can't we just give them the old-fashioned human assistance? Well, that's my magic wish for this month anyways. All right, that was the total number of dropouts per hour, but for the most part, these were very short, maybe 15 seconds at most. My second metric is the total outage minutes per day. And here we can see quite a different story. The total outage time is much better than April and roughly the same as the last 8 months, more or less, at least if you ignore the big global outage in January. And the network issues, the purple bits, have basically gone away. So whatever problem they were having between the satellites and the ground stations seems to be fixed now, which is great. You will notice there's a small brown slice showing in May. And this was a 5-minute outage on May 21st during an intense storm. Here's the storm as it was happening. This storm crossed Ontario in a matter of hours, leaving behind a huge number of downed trees and downed power lines. I was lucky, suffered no major damage, no power outage, and only 5 minutes of internet outage. Next, we'll move on to speed and latency. We're not seeing any improvement here, frankly. The average download speed in May was 85 megabits per second, almost the same as April. Upload speed improved a bit to 9 megabits per second, and ping stayed about the same at 49 milliseconds on average. all great compared to other rural internet options I have. So I'm not whining, but I really would like to see some improvement on the download speed. If we look at the histogram of download speed measurements, we can see that we're getting very inconsistent speed tests, with roughly the same number of tests in the 0 to 50 megabit per second bucket versus the 50 to 100 or 100 to 150 bucket. What this means is that even though my average speed is 85, at any given moment, it could be a lot slower or a lot faster, and I can't predict which. Here are the histograms from the past 4 months. What we want to see is the kind of pattern like March, with a nice clear peak. Okay, we also want that peak to be higher, perhaps in the 100 to 150 megabits per second range, but whatever. Uploads were a lot more consistent, as we can see here. For me, uploading pretty big videos 1 or 2 times a week, this upload speed is really important, and the consistency helps me to know how long a file will take to upload. Well, there we have it, my May 2022 Starlink report. I hope you found this video interesting. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for my future videos. And there's a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description if you would like to support my channel that way. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.